Our next speaker is going to be Blake Black, and he is the founder of Black Widow Pest and Wildlife Specialists. By the age of 24, he was already running his own business, and by the third year, he'd already made his first million in revenue. So he's here to tell us why if you're not sold, no one else will be. Let's welcome Blake to the stage.
Hello, everyone. So I know everybody's a little bit sleepy and lethargic from lunch, so I want you to bear with me. We're going to do one thing together first before we start. I know everybody's been thanking AAC, and there's a reason for it, right? They've done an incredible job putting on this event and many others, bringing value to everybody in the industry. And I want to sincerely say thank you to them, but I'm a little bit competitive, so I want some help. Before we get started, just everybody stand up for 1 minute for me. 1 minute, just bear with me, all right? Now, this is gonna help us to shake the lethargy a little bit, right? I wanna be the loudest people to give them a round of applause and a thank you. If you could help me with that, on the count of 3, give them a round of applause for me. 1, 2, 3. Woo! I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the help. Now, the reason that we start with that is because oftentimes, when we're selling especially, right, we have this way about us that either we adjust to the room or the room adjusts to us. I really want to focus on energy and making this exciting and fun, right? So let's go through this together. The concept that I'm going for today is, if you're not sold, why would anybody else be? This comes from a couple of different things. It starts with your belief in yourself. It starts with the communication that you have, not just with others, but also with yourself. And in some of these slides, I hope to give you a good idea of that and some other sales topics. Now, sales has this nasty, icky way about it. Everyone has this concept. How many of us in the room are afraid to sell? Just give me a couple hands. A little bit of vulnerable honesty. Anybody? Anybody have a problem selling? It's okay if you don't. It's okay if you do. All right. Room full of liars. I love it. Perfect. Great start. Listen, at some point or another in your career, everyone's a little bit afraid when they start, right? They're afraid when you try something new. You're afraid that people are going to judge you or they're going to laugh at you. They're going to laugh at your prices, right? They're going to laugh at the way you do things, your processes. It's really important that you make sure that you're dialed in your processes, right? Because at the beginning, everybody's going to laugh regardless. It's bound to happen. They're going to laugh either way. But if you're confident in what you're doing and you're confident in your abilities and you're confident in your sale, because you know that you're the person that's supposed to provide value to your customer, right? Then that's your customer. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to be your customer, and that's okay too, right? You'll hear some of these things repeated, and there's a lot of different ideas when it comes to sales, right? What I'm giving you is just my opinion, and my hope today is that I could take some of the things that you've already learned, some things that you already know, and maybe bridge the gap and connect the dots that you didn't know that you already knew. Maybe we're going to revisit some topics you already know. And maybe you're going to learn something new. I hope that each person could pull one thing away from this. I hope maybe multiple things, but we'll see. So, my name's Blake Black. I'm from Connecticut. I started a company called Black Widow Pest Specialists. We're rebranding as Pext, and we're starting over from scratch, right? And I won't get into that today, but I will get into why I sell, why I love sales, and why I'm so passionate about sales. My sales started by selling out of necessity. Now, that's the worst way to sell, okay? But at the time in my life, when I was very, very young, I didn't have any options. And the biggest, most memorable moment of selling for me was trying to sell somebody on my mother and I in a place to live because we didn't have one and we couldn't afford one. And it's really hard when you don't have enough money to afford the rent, right? After 3 pitches to somebody, and explaining to him that I would do whatever work he needed in his business to try to help him grow, to help him scale, to do whatever he needed. He said yes. I stayed there for 9 years until I had the money to buy my own house, and now I take care of my mother comfortably, okay? So my life started by selling out of necessity, and I'm very fortunate for that, because obviously in business, that's not the concept that's gonna work for you, right? If you really need that sale, you can't need that sale. The customer can't feel that, because you're gonna push them. You're gonna push them into something that they're not comfortable with, right? But just like in everything in your life, you kind of learn the wrong way first, right? So along the way, we start to pick up different topics and tips and things. Now, I won't get into all of the other reasons why and tell you this big, long, sad story, but what I will tell you is I'm very fortunate for all the things that happened because it all brought me here, right? So if you guys could think back to an early memory that you have, think back to the sales that you might have had when you were a kid, right? And this is a silly topic, but I want you to just run through it with me for a moment, right? Think back to when you were a kid and you're negotiating with your parents. Maybe it was for a candy bar or a camp you had to go to or whatever, right? That was a sale, right? There's so many things that we sell in our life that we don't even think is a sale. We don't even recognize it as a sale, right? It all starts at a young age. And through your life, you start to evolve and advance. But for some reason, somewhere along the way, when we start to work for ourselves, we become afraid. We become afraid of selling. We become afraid of trying to take somebody's money. And it's scary. It's scary when it's just you or when you're just starting to grow a team and nobody has belief in you yet, right? That's what happens in our evolution, right? It's part of your natural evolution. It's normal to be afraid of something that's new to you. So we're going to start this off with belief. But before I go into all these slides, I just want to bring one point to you. You're going to learn a lot in the next 48 hours. There's a lot of incredible speakers, and I hope they're all bringing a lot of value to you and your businesses. Thoughts are slippery. They get away from us. Write them down, right? It's something that you can revisit at a later date and implement. It's not enough to just come to these events and listen to everything that everybody else says and thinks and whatever, and you get this rah, 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 and this great attitude. That's not enough. You're not here for motivation. You're here to make active changes in your business and into your life, right? For those of you that haven't hit that million yet, for a lot of you that maybe have, right? You still have to sit down at a later date and revisit this. Maybe 2 weeks from now, set a reminder in your phone. So you actually go back to these tips and tricks and concepts that you learned from all these incredible people. So before we get started today, I just wanted to visit that point, right? So with sales, I'm going to touch on belief first. It's belief within yourself, belief within your business, and belief that you are the solution. It comes from being a high-value provider and very low risk to the customer. That's the concept. The concept is value and belief, right? It all starts with the belief that you have in yourself and the belief that you have in your company. If you think your company could maybe solve the issue, you might get the job. If you're confident that you're the right solution, you need to literally believe that you're letting that customer, by letting that customer go with a different service or a different provider, you're doing them a disservice. By letting them go with somebody else that isn't your company, you're letting them do a disservice to their home because you really believe that you are the right solution for their home. And instill that in your people, right? For all of us that aren't out there selling anymore, instill that in your people. Show them that belief. Show them why it's important. We're not just solving wildlife problems and pest problems in people's home. What are we actually doing? What is your belief? What we're doing is trying to improve their life and their health. What we're doing is improving their quality of life by getting something out of their home that's not supposed to be there. That's belief, right? It all starts with the car salesman. So this is where the whole belief goes bad, where everybody goes, oh, that guy down the road that tried to sell me this thing for nothing, right? That's why everybody hates sales. But sales doesn't have to be like that, right? Whenever I look for a vehicle, I won't buy a vehicle from somebody who doesn't drive it, right? And I want you to think about this concept. Show of hands, who offers quarterly pest control? Keep those hands up if you provide quarterly pest control to your own home. If you provide the quarterly pest control to your own home as well. Okay. A lot of hands went down. Put them back down for a second, right? How about exclusion services? How many of us do exclusion? All right, put them back down if you have your own home excluded. See, my hand went down? I hear you, right? This is the point. Before I moved into my new home that we're soon to move into, one of the biggest things for me was excluding it and making sure that it's pest and wildlife proof. I also provide quarterly maintenance on a home that's been vacant for the last 6 months. Why? Because I believe in the product, right? I believe in what I'm doing for my customers. Why would I sell you something that I don't believe in? I want all of my people to have the same services on their home. Why? I want them to believe in it. I want them to understand why it's valuable. So when they go, do I really need this quarterly maintenance service? They go, well, Mrs. Customer, I didn't think it was important either until I started spraying my foundation a couple times a year, and now my girlfriend doesn't yell at me when I get home from work anymore because there's no ants on the countertop, right? There's no more mice running around my basement chewing into her groceries that she stocks up on that shelf. It's important. It's belief, right? Why would I buy a Ferrari from somebody driving a Ford? Now, I don't have the money to buy a Ferrari yet, but it's the point, right? When I went with my girlfriend to go buy a BMW, she's in sales too, right? And I said, my one rule is we're not buying a BMW from somebody who drives anything but a BMW. I don't care, right? So we went to a bunch of different dealerships. There's one guy that drives a Range Rover, another guy that drives a Ford because he got a great deal on it. Yeah, I hear you. But I want that guy that likes the product and believes in that product, right? So we went through a couple of those sales guys first, and then I found a guy that has 3 BMWs currently and has been driving them for the last 30 years and has been selling there for the last 20 years because he got it, right? He understood it, and that's what we bought from. It's belief. Now, that doesn't mean that's going to be applicable across the board, but it's a concept I want you to think about and translate into your own way in your own businesses and your own lives, right? The belief that you have in your product. And do you make the customer feel stupid for making the bad decision first or for liking something else? Now, this is more applicable in our business where you go out to a customer's home and they have a different provider, right? And they've had them for the last 4 years and it's the cheap option. Maybe they charge $30 less a month than you do, right? And maybe you're trying to pitch them on a more expensive service plan. And they tell you, well, I liked them at first, they were good, but the communication's terrible and blah, blah, blah. And what we really want to say is, yeah, I hear you, they're idiots, right? But you don't say that to a customer. You don't tell a customer that they made a really dumb decision. Or how about the husband that seals a raccoon in the attic? How about that one? Because he tried to do the right thing, but ultimately what happened was he screwed it up, made your life harder, made it more expensive, and they ultimately get back in. You want to tell them they're idiots, but you can't, right? You don't want to make them feel dumb for doing the dumb thing that they didn't know any better. You want to make it relatable. Let them know it's okay. Hey, I get it. I used to work for one of those companies, right? And, I thought they were a great company at first too. And then I went to another company, and I thought they were great at first. But ultimately, the reason why we do it this way is because this is what we believe in. So if we're not the best option for you and your family, that's okay. But we would love to help you. Make it relatable, right? For the guy that seals the raccoon in, hey, brother, I get it. If I was in your shoes, I'd try to fix my own problem too. I don't want my girlfriend yelling at me and, whatever. But ultimately, the only reason we started to do it this way is because we learned more about the biology. We take the time to understand the animal. That's why we do it this way. So I don't blame you for doing it that way first, but I just want you to know it's going to complicate the process. It's going to make it a little bit harder. Just bear with me. I'll take care of you. Give them trust. Let them understand that it's okay, that they did the wrong thing first. They bought all that tomcat bait, and now they're choosing to go with a provider that's going to do the right thing. It's okay. Let me throw that out for you. I don't blame you. If I didn't know any better, I'd use that too. Make it relatable, okay? Don't shame the dumb decisions. Make it relatable. This thing is jumping all over the place. There you go. The mindset of a sales professional. Did you know that in a case study with soldiers, they were less likely to shoot their firearm and fire back at the enemy, even if they were getting fired upon? Even if somebody was actively shooting at them, trying to cause harm or death to them, they were less likely to shoot back if they weren't confident. They weren't confident they could hit their target. They weren't confident in their ability. They weren't confident. The same is true in sales. And I know it's a hard thing to translate here, and I don't mean to make a disrespectful assumption here, but I want you to understand the point that this is trying to make. In sales, if your team is not confident, they will not pitch. If they are not confident in why that's the better solution, they will not pitch. If they are not confident in the ability to perform that service, because say your best guy or a couple best guys left, right? And now you have a new guy in that role, and they're not confident that guy's gonna solve the problem, they will not pitch that product, right? So we need to make sure that our team understands this and understands the confidence. Because as we, as leaders, and I assume most of us are business owners in the room, as we work our way out of the field and we work ourselves into a leadership role, it's important that we're empowering our team properly and teaching them and instilling these confidence and these values into them, right? So that's what that analogy talks about, instilling confidence and giving them an understanding. Now, for any of us that are still out there selling, or for those of us that are still teaching our team, I want you to focus on positive self-talk and pep talks. It sounds ridiculous, but by changing things that are so simple, you could change your entire mindset. You probably felt a little bit drowsy when you sat down, a little bit tired when you sat down, and the reason that I made everybody stand up quick is because I wanted you to change the way that you were feeling. And I hope that worked. In a lot of cases it will, right? And if you start to change your self-talk, and just by changing your body, by changing your movement, you start to feel less tired. You confuse your brain, it doesn't know the difference, right? Before I talk, anytime before I would go up to a pitch when I was, all the time when I was younger and I was in the field and I would go up to somebody's door, I was always just a little bit scared when I was starting. And I would tell myself, I'm not nervous, I'm excited. You don't know the difference, right? Before I came up here today, I was nervous, but I said, no, I'm excited. Your brain doesn't know the difference, right? And something that Dane and I were just talking about in the back of the room, we were just going back and forth on a couple points, and he said, it's good if you get butterflies. It means you care, right? It's okay to get a little bit nervous when you're going up to that customer, you're going to pitch that big job, and maybe the biggest exclusion job you sold was $5,000, and maybe this one's 10. That first time, you are scared shitless, right? It's scary. And sometimes you don't even know why it costs that much. That's when it's really scary, not understanding your numbers. I'll go through that in a minute, so I don't want to touch on that point yet, but I want you to focus on the point that I'm trying to make here. It's not that you're nervous, it's that you're ill-prepared. Confidence helps. The reason I'm not nervous to be in front of you right now is because I'm prepared. But even if I was nervous, my brain doesn't know the difference. You can confuse yourself into thinking it's excitement, okay? Who wants it less? Now, this is a very confusing topic, and it's a very confused topic. Who wants it less is not about how little can you care about a customer or a solution or whatever. The concept very simply is, I don't need every single sale, right? And I understand that because I sell with integrity and I don't want to force anybody into anything. So who wants it less is very, very simply about, I don't want you to make a decision that's not right for you and your family, and if you're not ready to make it, don't make it, right? It's one of my favorite things to talk about with sales. Who wants it less? If the other guy is shoving a solution down their throat, they're like, what is your problem? I'm not signing today, I already told you that, but I'll give you 5% off today. I told you no. I'll give you 10% off. The answer is still no. And now I want you to leave my home. Because now they're uncomfortable, right? So it's not about who actually wants it less, it's about really who needs it less. And even if you do need it, right? I could tell you stories about people that were visiting subcontractors that I had out helping us, and it was the last day they were there, and it's the night before they're about to start a job, and a big job cancels, and it can't go for a week, right? And I have 2 guys I gotta keep busy, and then another job, there was a miscommunication, and those 2 guys, they're freed up. So now I got 4 guys doing absolutely nothing the next day. What's that gonna cost your business, right? Especially if you're charging appropriately, it costs a lot, okay? So I went to a day of inspections with a friend of mine. And the long and the short is, we went to a couple of his customers to do inspections, and I had one call come in by accident, and I told him, I said, look, you could do this one, you could do that one. I'm like, I'm not gonna take food off your table, like, It's all good. Don't worry about me. I'll figure it out. The very last inspection we went to was for one of our leads that came in. And I went through, did an inspection for the guy. I'm like, it's a pretty good one, you know? It was like a $7,500 job. I'm like, this would do, you know? So I talked to him about everything, let him know, you know, what the pricing looks like, what the process looks like, how long it's going to take. I explained the entire thing to him, top to bottom. I take my time, I go through everything, and now in the back of my head, I'm hurting. I'm going, I need to keep these guys busy tomorrow. But he didn't know that, right? Well, how long is this going to take? When can you get me scheduled? Well, sir, we're booked out for 2 weeks to a month at any given time for our exclusion work. That's how our process works. You know, we need 50% up front and a signed proposal, right? And, you know, just by happenstance, I did have one cancel tomorrow. So if you want to do it tomorrow, I'll save you some money. And I don't want you to think this is a sales ploy, because it's absolutely not. I'm not here to sell you anything that you don't need, and I'm not here to give you anything you don't need. If you're comfortable with everything you said and you want to buy from us, happy to do it. And I want you to know with integrity, I'm willing to give you a discount today, and only today, specifically because I have 4 guys I want to keep busy tomorrow. And if not, I'm paying 2 guys to sit around, and I'm paying 2 guys to go home. So I'm willing to give you a discount for it. And if not, no harm, no foul. You can call me in the future whenever you and your wife are ready to make a decision, and we'll move forward with it. But if you're comfortable with everything I said, I'd be happy to move forward. I didn't shove it down his throat. He didn't need it, because I didn't need that customer. I kind of did, but he didn't need to know that. But I told him with transparency, look, this is the situation. And he was like, well, could you do any better? No, this is our bottom line price. Well, but you really need to keep him busy. You're right. So why won't you do it for less? Because I know my margins, sir. I'm willing to give you a discount only because I'm willing to lose a little bit of money to make sure that my guys are all productive. I'm not willing to do any less than that. I gave you the best price the first time, and if you call me in a week from today, it's still going to be the original price I gave you. So if you're willing to move forward, let me know. Will you take cash? Sure will. So it worked, right? But it's about doing it with integrity. It's not about pitching something and shoving it down somebody's throat and needing that sale. That's what Who Wants It Less is all about. Your customers are going to sense your desperation. And sometimes we are a little bit desperate. And that's okay. When you're still new, if it's still a side hustle to you, or there's still some times that, you know, you're still brand new in business, it's okay to be honest with the customer and say, look, I'm willing to do this at a discount. I'm willing to do it at cost so I could learn more about it. I've done my research. I've got licensed. I'm legal to do all this work, but I'm still learning. And I have somebody that's mentoring me on this job. That's not desperation, that's integrity. There's a very big difference. If you're selling it the opposite way, and you're trying to sell somebody on something and saying, well, I'm gonna do it the best. We've done 1 million of these. We know how to do this, and then all of a sudden you don't have answers to all their questions, you're gonna look very foolish. The one thing that I've recognized is missing across the board, not just in our industry, but in every industry nowadays, is integrity. And if you're honest, and if you sell out of integrity, you're just providing a customer a solution, and you're doing the right thing for them, right? And confidence creates leverage. When you're confident that you are the people that are going to solve the problem, when you're confident that you are the solution that they need, and that you're going to do it better than somebody else, that confidence is going to give you leverage in the negotiation. Because ultimately, every single time you pitch something, it's going to be a negotiation. The mindset of a sales professional. You're not a salesman, you're an educator. So something I've always been big on is, even though I'm here talking to you about sales, and even though I'm talking about it as a pitch and a sale today, because they are ultimately sales, what you're actually doing is trying to educate, right? If you focus on teaching solutions and not pushing products, people are usually really happy to buy from you. And again, it comes back to integrity, making sure you're sold on everything that you're selling or providing, right? And again, the one thing you'll never hear me say is to a customer, let me sell you this. I tell customers right up front, I'm a terrible salesman because I don't care if you buy from me or not. I would love for you to buy from me. Of course I'm biased. I would love for you to use our company if you know, like, and trust us and you think we're the best solution for you and your family. If not, I would encourage you to go with somebody that is, because I want you to be comfortable with the decision. I don't want you having buyer's remorse. There is nothing worse than you leaving the driveway and them going, yep, he got me. That guy just got me. That is the worst feeling. How many people have felt like that? Whether it was a vehicle or something that you were kind of rushed into, maybe it was a product that you were buying that somebody pitched you at a show or something. it feels bad. It makes you feel horrible. Why would you want to give your customers that impression, right? You want them to understand. I always tell every customer as part of my pitch, I want you to know I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just here to teach you about your house. And if you choose to buy from us, that's fantastic. I would love to help you, but I want you to do whatever's comfortable for you. I'm not going to push you on anything. I'm going to provide you solutions. You'll have all your answers by the end of my pitch, by the end of our visit today, right? But I'm not here to sell you anything. And if you're not comfortable, I would advise that you wait, right? And I also like to give them an accurate timeline. So if the guy down the road comes, right, we'll call him Joe Schmo. If Joe Schmo comes into the customer's driveway and goes, yeah, you got to get these bats out of here, it's really bad, and it's got to get out today. You need them done today. I'll do it right now for you, right? They're thinking, oh my God, well, they carry diseases and all this, and that's fear-mongering, right? You're scaring the customer. Now, if I, as a professional, say to a customer, look, man, it looks like this has been here for the last 3 or 4 years, right? And you've got nothing in your home. Your home is sealed up well from the interior portions. We obviously need to seal the exterior. The problem is not that one bat that got in that one time. It's that your home's not wildlife proof, right? So we understand that. But the reality is, if you had to wait a month to 2 months, it's okay because we're still within that window, right? I want you to do whatever's best for your family, and I don't want you to make an impulsive decision. I'm just here to help educate you on your home. I'm happy to do this for you. We're booked out 2 weeks, by the way, which that's normally very accurate. I always use the number 2 weeks because we're literally always booked out for 2 weeks for exclusion. We're booked out for 2 weeks, by the way. The only thing we need to get started is a signed proposal and a 50% deposit. And if you're ready to move forward, we could do it today. And if not, no problem, take your time, right? Who are you gonna buy from? Are you gonna buy from that person that's really forcing it down your throat if I was there first and told you it's okay if you wait a month? And the other guy's going, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, that's weird, he has all these certifications and all these licenses. They showed me everything, it's all right there on the website. I'm like, okay. The customer starts to tell themselves the truth in their head, which is that the professional was there and told them the truth. And even if you cost 2, 4, or 6 times more, they're buying from you. I promise. And that's not gonna be the case for every customer. Every customer is gonna be different, but not every customer is your customer. If you understand your numbers and you understand what it costs for you to do business for that day, right? And how long that job takes, then you could provide a comfortable solution and you could even provide payment plans. There's ways around the money, but you need to make what you need to make on this job, right? And it all comes from being an educator, not a salesman. Building connections without pressure. Make a friend, make a sale. I've had this philosophy forever. It's a philosophy that I stand on, right? I say that our business stands on a foundation of integrity, and we want everybody to be friends. Everybody that works for us, we want to be friends. For that reason, when people call and they're yelling at us and yelling at our teammates, especially if they try to scream at us, we fire the customer. We don't do business with them. I want to do business with friends. I don't want to do business with a bunch of people that are miserable. I don't want my team to be miserable. I don't want anyone that goes out to that customer to be miserable, and I don't want anybody to be mistreated. That doesn't mean we're soft, right? We still have a rough exterior, and we're still kind to people. That you can have a balance of it, right? So making a friend, making a sale has this really cool concept around it. Everyone wants to do business with somebody that they know, like, and trust, right? And especially if they become friends. All of our customers inevitably become our friends. I have a list of 2,500 friends, right? I don't need any more. I could just keep reaching that list and finding more friends. I could ask them, right? If you guys are slow, and this kind of veers off of sales a little bit, but I'm just gonna make one point here. If you guys are slow, dig back through that customer list and find a friend. Find somebody who was happy with the service you did. Maybe they left you a review. And say, hey, I want you to know that our schedule's looking a little light for next week. Who are 2 to 4 people that you think should have our services in your home? I need the names and numbers of 2 to 4 people that you think should be our friends. If you make a friend, you make a sale, right? It always happens as a byproduct. You should be friendly with your customers just because it's the right thing to do. But in all honesty, if you make a friend, it'll always inevitably make you a sale, okay? Now, human connection precedes transaction. I want to give a weird situation here. Just last week it happened. I very rarely go out to any customer accounts at this point. At this stage in our business, we're trying to grow, okay? And I went out to a job about 2-3 weeks ago now, okay? And this customer was having a problem, and there was this big miscommunication, and I was like, how the heck did this happen? You know, one of those problems where you're like, our systems are better than this, our guys are better than this, I have no idea how this happened, right? But I wanted to get to the bottom of it myself and figure it out. And the woman is all worked up, and she's texting us the night before, I just want you to know this isn't gonna go well tomorrow. Okay, all right. So I go out there, and I let her know ahead of time, it's gonna go well because we're friends. Smiley face. So when we went out there, I have a conversation with the woman. She's all worked up. She's got it all. She's got her list. This contractor said this, and this guy said that. Oh, okay, yeah, that's great. He said that. How much experience does he have in wildlife? Where does his degree in entomology come in? Okay. All right. So I start talking more about it, and I'm like, well, look, I think there's a couple things that maybe got missed here. Let's go over them together, right? We take full accountability. By the way, I have 2 guys that are on their way. They're fixing this for you today, so you don't have to wait for a solution. It was an exclusion job, okay? A rat chewed back into lower exclusion. And I said, I think there was a miscommunication. Why would we leave a tennis ball size hole in your concrete open? It doesn't make any sense, right? So I start digging a little bit deeper and talking to her for a moment. I won't bore you with all the logistics of the story, but as I go through the inspection, her son says, I'm sorry if you hear me throwing up, I just got back from chemo. Okay? We never know what somebody else is going through, right? And in that moment, I knew she wasn't upset about the rat. I said to her, we're here today to make this right for you, and I intend to do that. I'm happy to do that for you, but I want you to know I'm very sorry for everything you're going through. And she's like, well, the rats and blah, blah, and I'm like, the rats are part of it, but I'm not talking about the rats. And her eyes welted up, and I said, do I have permission to give you a hug? I just gave her a hug. Best friends ever since. Right? Empathy is the answer when it comes to that situation. It's not always perfect. That doesn't always mean that's the right solution. I'm not advising you go hug all your angry customers because that's a piss poor decision. But the reality is, empathy is the remedy, right? It always works. When you're empathetic and understanding to a customer that's going through something, even though it might not be as serious as they're making it out to be, it's serious to them. And that's part of your sales process because you have to see it through. Whoever sold that job, which the guy who sold the job was back with me on that job, by the way. He was one of the people fixing it because that's the right thing to do. So now she's not thinking, oh, it was just some random guy, whatever. No, it was the guy that sold me this job, this $8,000 exclusion. He's back on this job mixing concrete with him because he's making it right, right? It was a way for us to listen to the customer and give understanding and try to help them. And that's part of your process. And that doesn't mean it's going to be right for everybody. Everybody has their systems in place, and I want to respect your systems, right? But just think about it. Now, this is one of my favorite topics, thermostat versus the thermometer. When I walked into this room, you guys looked really tired. Just saying. After lunch, we all get like that. I get it. But there's a very big difference between a thermostat and a thermometer. Thermometer reads the room, reads the temperature, and adjusts to it. If I did that, I would have came in and said, hey guys, I'm Blake. Nice to meet you. How was your lunch? Good, cool, nice. Nobody likes that, right? I wanted energy. I wanted to be your thermometer, not your thermostat, not your thermometer, right? I wanted to be the person that helped to change the temperature in the room because of my energy. I wanted you guys to adjust to my energy. And it worked for most of you. Some of you guys still look a little tired, and that's okay. But the reality is, you could do the same thing with your sales. Some people are going to be really dry or really busy, and like if you're going to theirs, right, and maybe they're just an anxious wreck, and they're like, some people are like that when we go to their home. It's a very serious issue they're dealing with, right? You need to be calm and cool and make them adjust to you. Make them feel comfortable, right? Make them understand that you're the one that's there to help, and that you don't have to adjust to their crazy energy or their horrible energy. If they're really angry and really aggressive, you don't need to be aggressive. You can still be calm, cool, collected. Be a professional. Make them adjust to your energy. Don't adjust to theirs. It's part of your process. It's just part of your process that you didn't even recognize. And if you could think back to some really good times of you doing this, I think that you'll recognize you probably even do this more than you realized. You make people come back to your energy because energy is a powerful, captivating thing, right? You set the tone instead of reacting. Sales suspension. How many people recognize that fly that's been flying around my face? Everybody, right? Yeah, cool, great. I thought I smelled good today, I guess not, I don't know. But sales suspension. I want you to think about something. I never once swatted, I never once reacted. There he is again, he's on my nose. Are you kidding me? Now I'm pissed. But the point is, he knows I'm talking about him, I swear to God, this thing's crazy. But the point is, have a sales suspension, right? The same is true in everything that you do. Have a suspension. The suspension that as you ride through, that little thing is just a bump. It's a little bump. I just ride right along. I didn't recognize it. I didn't point it out. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. The only point is, I kind of hoped he was waiting. He was going to come back for that point. But the point is, when something happens in the middle of your pitch, some people just melt. They lose it. Somebody walks in, the husband walks in. How much does it cost? We're not doing that. Oh, storms off. And now you're, I'll just leave. No. Oh, listen, he doesn't get it yet. He's not my friend yet. In a couple minutes he will be once I explain to him what we're doing. But as I said, this is the cost for this. This is why this works, right? And you just work right through it confidently. Don't let those little bumps bother you. They're just little bumps. Have a sales suspension. This is a topic that I've never heard talked about. It's just something I created, and I absolutely think it's true. If you force yourself to just ride right over those little bumps as they come, you'll have much more success in your sales, I promise. Connect, but be direct. Clarity builds trust, okay? I want you to think about something. If you're overcomplicating things to a customer, and you're giving them all these different big words and whatever, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't include educated answers or certain points in there, but if you're speaking way over their head, they're probably not gonna buy from you just because they're confused, right? If you could find a way to connect with them, but be direct with them, explain the issue, explain the solutions in a clear and concise manner. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated, right? This has to be part of your sales process. Connect, but be direct. Communication and questions. The key is listening. It's always better to get better questions because you'll get better answers. Now, I'm gonna give you a quick example of communication and listening. This is a really cool example I heard a couple weeks back, and I absolutely love it. I don't want anybody to shout out any answers, but I want you to listen to what I'm saying. Bob's mom has 3 kids, okay? I'm gonna use a quarter, a nickel, and a dime to describe their names. Right? Ready? First name is Nicholas. Second name is Demetrius. By a show of hands, how many people know the third name? Okay, cool. So keep those hands up, it's okay. Look around the room real quick. Right? Okay, I'm gonna say it again. Try to actively listen with me. Bob's mom has 3 kids. I'm gonna use a quarter, a nickel, and a dime to describe their names. First name is Nicholas. Second one is Demetrius. What's the third name? Bob. It took me 3 times of hearing that to recognize I was not listening, right? I get it. I only said it twice for the point. The thing is, a lot of times we actively listen, or so we think, but we're just listening to respond, not to understand. So I told you the answer the whole time. The name was Bob. But I distracted your attention by telling you about the quarter, nickel, and dime. Now, why is that relevant? Why do you care, right? Think about this. When a customer says, well, I heard some noises over here, and it's been more consistent over here, but like, you know, my attic is way across the house over here, and you're like, oh, there's guano, you have bats. But you didn't ask them any questions. They told you everything you needed to know. They said, I'm hearing this very faint scratching. And you didn't ask enough questions, you didn't listen to what they said, so you assume they had bats. And you solve their bat problem, and you go back, and you go back, and you go back. I can't figure out what these bats are getting in, because the whole time they had mice, because you didn't listen. Because they told you from the beginning, I'm hearing it across the house, I'm hearing it over here, right? And you didn't solve the right problem because you didn't listen. The bat activity could have been 6 years old, okay? You just couldn't tell how new the guano was. They might have also had bats. Sometimes there's multiple problems. You're not asking the right questions. You're not communicating properly. You're not listening to your customer. It's crazy what happens when you start to recognize these little tips and tricks that you don't even realize is happening on a day-to-day basis. And I promise you will sell more. Because when you tell that customer, no, that's not what a bat sounds like. The bat has a way more fast pace. You might even hear a thud when it lands on the roof, and it's going to be across over there. You don't even have a dormer in this area. That wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense for it to be right here, right? Communication. Attention to detail. Show you care by noticing everything. How many of us in your inspection reports will write if there was a leaky pipe or a damaged condenser or a damaged unit or a this or a that, right? Your roof is leaking. I noticed the chimney flashing was all jacked up and all the wood around it's all rotted. It looks like mold is starting. Your ventilation is poor. Why is any of that important to our industry? Some of it might be, but the answer is a lot of it's not. But it's important for a different reason. It's important because you build trust in communicating the things that they didn't know was happening in their own home. You build trust by teaching them about their home. And you also really drive home that point when you say, Mrs. Customer, I'm just an educator. I'm not here to sell you anything. I've forced myself to learn about different industries because I want to provide as much value to your home as I possibly can. I'm not an expert. I would encourage you to call a roofing expert for that, right? And I don't even solve those problems, and I can't provide you a solution for it. I can give you a list of people that I know, like, and trust if you want them. You don't have to buy from them. I'm just trying to give you a solution. But that's irrelevant to my industry. Sometimes you might get called out for something that's not even relevant to us, right? But you build trust by telling them the truth. That's why attention to detail matters. How many of us do that in our inspection reports? Show of hands. I would encourage the rest of you to try it. I promise it works. Don't tell the customers what they want to hear. Tell them what they need to hear. I know this sounds like a stupid, simple topic, but you would be surprised how many people sugarcoat, right? And you don't have to do it in an abrasive way, but when a customer actually has an issue with something like bats, and they're like, oh, I can't stand that, or I can't do this, I can't know about this or that, or whatever, you need to still communicate with them about where the damage is, how bad it is. You need to explain to them why it takes so much money to fix the problem, right? Because it takes time, it takes effort, it takes specialized material, it takes specialized equipment and licensing, might take ropes and harnesses, right? All of those things are gonna factor into our price. Show it to them. Write it out like chicken scratch on a notepad. One of the best things I ever started doing in sales is writing everything out. And I'll just itemize it in a line item on a piece of paper. This much for return visit, this much for ropes and harnesses for the day, this much per guy per day, this many days. This much for ridge guard, because X amount of linear feet, X amount per linear feet, right? And I'll explain it. Look, you're welcome to not put the ridge guard on your home, but I would encourage you to do it. Why? Well, I don't know, because you're already paying $4,000 to protect your home and wildlife proof it, and we're both gonna have egg on our face if I have to come back here and put ridge guard on your home, because then it's gonna cost more for me to come back when I can give you a 10% discount for doing it at the same time as the other work, right? Why would you not do it when it's framed that way? Make it something that just makes sense. Just explain it like that. It's just transparency. Tell them what they didn't know they needed to hear. Because how many people get that reaction? The bats cost how much? Right? The thing is, it's not actually the bats that cost that much. It's not actually the mice or the ants or the whatever. People see the problem and get blinded by the price. It's your job to illuminate it by explaining it. It's very simple when you simplify it. This is the cost to have our company provide the work because this is the solution that we think is best for your home. We'd encourage you to do your research if you're not comfortable. We want you to do whatever's best for your home, okay? It's very simple. You don't have to be pushy. You don't have to nail it on the head and take it home, but you have to find a way to show the customer it's not the pest that costs that much, and it's not your fault that it costs that much. Listen, this is just our price to provide you service. And if you don't want to do that, that's okay. It's not the mice that cost that much. It's the fact that they've been there for 6 years and now we have to remove all the insulation because of the damage they did. That's what I want you to understand. This is how much time it takes to do that. This is how much labor. This is what the guys have to wear. And they have to be in that attic, by the way, for 2 days, right? Explain it to them. It's 80 degrees outside. That means that attic's gonna be 100 degrees, so it's not safe. That's why I have to do it in September instead. Find ways to explain your points. And I'm not saying that all of these are gonna be perfect for you guys, but I want you to understand the point that I'm trying to make, right? You have to find a way to make the pest the thing that costs the money, not your solution. Because then they're not actually mad at you, they're mad at the pest. And then you guys could align and be on the same page, right? I can't see part of this, so bear with me. Sales tactics and strategies. Second money is easier to take than first money, right? Now, he made a great point before when he said, we don't take money, right? That's a good point. We don't actually take money from a customer. We're providing them a solution. But the reason why this is something that I always say second money is easier to take than first money is because you already have the customer's trust if they've already done business with you, right? The second time they're gonna hire you or the third time is gonna be much easier because they've already trusted you once to be in their home, be around their family, right? That's sensitive for a lot of people. These people work their entire lives to be in these beautiful homes that we're fortunate enough to go provide service, right? Some of us are working on $1 million homes, and they're trusting us in their sensitive areas of their homes where they store their kids' toys, where they store all sorts of things. Building trust with your customer, right? Like we talked about before, telling them that you're the right solution for them. These are all things that are gonna build your trust. One of the first things I do when I walk into a customer's home, after I shake their hand, smile, and introduce myself, I put boot covers on. Every single time, without fail, I make sure there's no rips or tears in them, and I let them know, hey, I'm putting these on to respect your home, just give me 1 second, right? And I put them on, every time, without fail. I don't care if I'm walking 5 feet to the basement, I still put them on. Sorry, I'm not gonna be the reason your wife has to clean, right? I'm building trust and teaching them that I respect their home. It's the little subtle things that you don't even recognize in your sales pitch or in your day-to-day activity that's going to end up giving you that second money, right? When you go through a customer's home, you just build that little bit of trust by coming out of the attic. Everything looked great up there, but there was a little bit of mouse activity in that right corner. That's why these quarterly services are so valuable, Mrs. Customer. I'm gonna go check the basement now, I'll be right back with you, right? They're like, I'm glad I had that quarterly service then, because there's a mouse in my attic I didn't know about, right? And then it ends up being other money. Then they end up saying, well, I don't want mice in my house ever again. Let's do an exclusion, right? Let's do this, let's do that. It's easier to take after you've already taken it, okay? Build trust equals upsell. That's what we're talking about here. If you build their trust with that first service, you don't need to sell recurring service that same day. And I know that goes against everything that everybody else says. But if you make it an absolute no-brainer and you find a way to present it that way, then they will always come back. Or you could always follow up with them. A warm touch point a month later. Hey, we just wanted to touch base and see how that rodent service went. We always recommend that we do a follow-up service 1 month after. Why? So we could refresh all the stations for rodents. It's a requirement, and the customer is welcome to say no if they want, but we always do a 1 month follow-up on all of our rodent services. Why? Because I know that that one service might take care of the problem, or it might not. I want to be sure I solve your problem, Mrs. Customer, which is why I come back for 60% of the value. But I just want you to know, because of the initial charge being what it was, we could actually start that quarterly service for you next month. It's a set and forget it at this much per month, and it's a lot less than you'd be paying for that follow-up visit. Frame it as a no-brainer, right? And then when they look at it and go, do I want to pay 200 or do I want to pay 80? Well, I'm going to pay 80. Yeah, you cancel any time if you want. But by the way, spring's coming. So are the ants. And that bee's nest you had last year that was $300, that would have been free. Kind of a no-brainer, right? Why wouldn't I sign up for this service? Exactly. You find a way to make it a no-brainer. If you build trust, it ends up becoming an upsell every single time. Cold call your old leads and lost jobs. So after this, I want you to think back to some of the sales things that you might have done very poorly back home. Or maybe some of your team did when you were like, oh my God, I can't believe we lost that job. Why would he ever say that? I want you to try to connect the dots on some lost sales. Go back through your customer list. Some big companies, I visited a $60 million company last week, right? And they have this thing called a hunter. They have 2 hunters. The hunter's job is to go through lost leads, lost estimates, and any services they did not provide and figure out why and see if they could touch base with the customer to fix it. Oh, well, I really didn't want that guy drilling through my foundation. No, he doesn't drill through your foundation. He drills through the sill above your foundation. There's no risk to your foundation. Oh, I didn't know that. I would have done the job. Well, why don't we schedule it next Tuesday? Go back through your leads. Figure out why. Why did that customer go a different direction? If you know why it happened, you can fix it. If you don't, then you're just lost. You can't hit a target that you can't see, right? Trial, error, and testing builds skills, okay? For a while when you're getting started, for any newer companies here, try to learn from other operators if you can. Get as many opinions as you can, but you're still gonna have to do trial and error to figure out the right solution for you and for your company, right? I want you to think about this. When I started, I had no clue what anything should cost because I didn't understand my numbers, I didn't know how to do things properly, but I still believed, delusionally, that I was doing the right thing for our customers. And at the time, I did everything that I could. But I look back and I think about these times with these customers, and I would just pull a price tag out of the sky. How much does this cost? $4,000. And they said, well, that's a lot. And I went, uh-huh. They said, why? And I went, what? I didn't have an answer, right? You look silly. You don't have answers for their questions. You have to understand why things cost what they cost, right? And that comes back to knowing your numbers. We're running out of time, so I'm gonna do some rapid fire here. Knock the neighbors. This is something that works fantastic. If you're doing a pest control job, especially to build some route density, go knock on the neighbors' doors. If you can, without soliciting too much and without having a solicitation permit, you gotta be careful. I'm not encouraging you to go door knock the whole neighborhood, but you could, at minimum, have little company cards that are magnets. Leave it on the front of their mailbox. Have your guys do it as an incentive. Make it a fun sales program for them. Incentivize them, right? It's something we were good about doing for a while with bat work, but over time we kind of lost it. But it's something that we look forward to implementing again in the future. Referrals, social proof, and the referral effect. So by people referring you to people they know, like, and trust, just like we said, by giving them to their friends, it adds validation to their purchase and their decision to use your company when their friend goes, I'm so glad I switched from my guy to your guy was way better. Just like people that drive Chevys usually like Chevy guys better, and people that drive Fords usually like Ford guys better. Same concept. People want other people that do the same things as them, right? It just kind of validates your decisions. Same concept. Understanding your numbers. Have a price sheet, explain the cost to your team. Transparency builds trust and internal confidence. Now, I know this sounds crazy because most of you are thinking, why would I want them to understand the margins? Why would I want them to understand all this? I want my team to understand, at least roughly, so they don't think, I go do this mouse job for $350 and the material's $50 and we're just using even numbers, and my boss makes $300 and he's sitting in an office. That's a really poor way to do business because now all your guys are getting resentful and they're thinking that you make hand over fist, right? Explain to them how much things cost, right? All of us operators, we were talking about insurance before. You guys were saying how much insurance costs, right? It was an extra $10,000. Show that to them. Hey, that accident you were in, I'm not upset with you for it, but I want you to know our rates rose an extra $2,000 a year, right? Because this was our 4th accident this year, okay? That means that now we also have to make this much on top of our margins, so either our prices have to increase or we need to find a way to do more services. I just want you to know how that impacts our company. I'm not upset with you. Things happen. But we need to make it right. Let them understand that. Let them understand that everything has an effect, right? It's not like you're just making money and pulling it out of thin air and keeping it all, because we're not like that. We want to help and pour into our team, but let them see the numbers and at least understand it. Make it fun and exciting, right? And understand your own numbers. This is super important. Honestly, the simplest way to do it is just to add up everything that you spend in a year, right? Simplify it by 52 weeks, and if you give your guys, say, 2 weeks vacation, take that away from it so that it's 50 weeks for the year, or you could even call it 48 to account for error. Think about how much your cost is and break it down to those weeks, and then into those days, and then into those hours. That is the simplest dumbed down way to do it. Now, I'm not an accountant. I'm certainly not confident enough to give you advice like a CPA, so maybe that's piss poor advice, but that's how I figured out my numbers. When I didn't understand them, it was the simplest way for me to figure out very basic how much I needed to make for each guy for each day, what our margin needed to be, and if we wanted to grow, how we would grow. And then I explained it to our team, right? Sales process, discipline, structure, repetition. Value pricing and competition. Have confidence in your pricing. If you don't believe that it's worth it, neither will they. This comes back to, if you're not sold, they won't be sold, right? If you truly believe that that price is not worth it, and you're pitching it like, it's gonna be $2,500, and they're like, I'm not paying you that. You don't even believe what you're saying to me. You have to confidently say the number. You have to confidently explain the value to your customer and sell from their pockets, not yours. You know, we sold, this is crazy to me still, we sold an entire wrap of somebody's trailer. She said, I don't want any of this anymore, I don't want any of this anymore, I don't want any of this anymore. It was a double wide trailer, and it was like almost an $8,000 exclusion. It took a lot of time, but I couldn't believe it. I was shocked when I saw the pictures and the numbers. I'm like, all right, well, good for you for following the right concepts, right? He didn't sell out of their pockets, or sell out of his pockets rather, he sold out of theirs. It's very easy for us to have this concept and this idea of, oh, the customer can't afford it, they have a Honda in the garage. Well, they might like that Honda, right? It doesn't matter what they drive. It's not your job to judge what they have, what they don't have. Most people don't flaunt and don't show it. Not everybody that you think is a millionaire, and just like everybody you think is broke, maybe they are a millionaire, right? It's a very simple concept. Sell out of their pockets, not out of yours. Lowest bidder equals broke forever. If you are trying to be the low guy, you are just hurting your margin and you're hurting your own business, and you will not win that way. If you lower your price to sell that job, you could have been busy and productive somewhere else doing another job that was sold properly. If they don't like your number, it's okay, they can go somewhere else. Stop discounting your prices to accommodate customers. It is one of my biggest pet peeves. The low bidder always loses. Competing on price devalues your solution. And the key takeaways. I'd rather fail and know why than succeed and not know how. A lot of times we're confused on why a customer went with a solution, okay? We don't really understand why it worked. I'd rather fail and have absolutely no idea why I failed or how I failed, right? I wanna know what happened. It makes the process so much simpler, because then I can make it right the next time, okay? Confidence plus communications plus connection equals conversion. The conversion of somebody who is a lead who becomes a customer. When you're sold, the customers feel it. Confidence is contagious. If you don't believe in yourself and your solution, no one else will. And that's what I want you to focus on. And here's some basic resources. This is something I gave with the last presentation I did in Florida. It's just some things that might help you to grow, some learning, some daily tools that I use that I like, some great podcasts to give you guys a little bit of mentorship because it really helped me to grow and evolve, and some books. These are things that you guys should be doing, especially in your day-to-day routine. If you're going out to sales appointments, if you're going out and dealing with customers, you need to spend some time on your self-development and your personal development, because discipline is everything. Motivation fades and washes away, but discipline doesn't. And we're not all perfect. We might look disciplined on the surface, but we all fall, we all screw up, right? You just get back on, start again. It's not always gonna be perfect, but it's really important that you continue to invest in yourself and your team if you wanna grow this right. That's all I got for you guys.